I have for you, the title of this message is Oil to Pay Your Debt and Leave of the Rest. Oil to pay your debt and leave of the rest. Wouldn't it be great to have enough to pay all your debts and leave of the rest? That would be awesome. And usually, have you ever thought to yourself, I have nothing. I literally have nothing. All I have are debts, and I can make enough to live by, not even, and I'm also indebted, which is worse than just not having anything, right? It's because you are below zero, you are filled with debt. Now, in this chapter, Brother Bartek read, there in 2 Kings chapter 4, which is the chapter that Brother Bartek has read, there are many stories, like 4 stories, or 3 stories. And I'm going to focus on the first story, which talks about a widow. It says, as I'm going to read along, I'm going to make some explanations. So I'm going to read like one verse and explain it. So it says there, now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha. So I'm going to invite a woman, Sister Dominiquita, and yes, and her 2 sons. Yes. As everyone knows here, it's my wife and my 2 sons. I have 3 sons, but this illustration only uses 2 sons, okay? So it's, here is Elias and Felix, and my wife Dominica. So it says there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, thy servant, my husband is dead. And thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord. And the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen. I'm going to explain that because, first of all, we need to see that she says to the man of God, which represents God, is, my husband is dead. And my husband was your servant, and he feared the Lord. And as men, we need to know that even if we serve the Lord and we are fearful of God, God can call us to be with Him at any moment. In our wives, there will be widows, because sometimes we think, oh, if I win souls, why would God call me to be with Him right now? He's going to just allow me to live until I'm old. But that depends on God. And we better have our wives to tell God, God, my husband served you and he feared you. That's my argument. She needs to have that argument to go and talk to God and present her problem. And not only that, but the creditor, which is the bank, this widow, she had a debt. And the bank is coming to her and saying, hey, pay me 1 million zlotys. Pay me. No? You don't have money? Then I'm going to take your two sons as slaves. Do you think she will allow me to take her sons? No. Well, in reality, right? No, right? She will be in such pain, in such suffering. It's like, how am I going to leave my 2 sons to be slaves, to work for the bank? And you can go, sister. Thank you very much. And we need to see one thing. Debt always leads to slavery. We will feel like slaves when we are indebted. The Bible really doesn't specify where did the widow got this credit from. Why did she get it? Well, what was the amount, the sum of all the money that she owed to the bank? But she was in a huge problem. And what she does is the right thing, is just to go to God. Either she first went to the bank. We don't know if that's a debt that her husband took while he was alive and then left it to his wife. Or if the widow, once she lost her provider, maybe she went to the bank first and said, hey, I don't know how to get by. I can't work. I'm not making enough money, so I need to get some money from the bank. The Bible doesn't really specify it, but either way, you always have to go to God first. First go to God. Don't go to the bank. Whenever you have a problem, you first take it to God. And you better have a good argument. You better say, Lord, my husband, he served you, he feared the Lord, he was a soul winner, he was helping build your church in Poland. So please God, I have this problem. The bank want to enslave my two sons. Now, Elisha said unto her, it says, and Elisha said unto her, what shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, thine handmaid hath not anything in the house, save a pot of oil. So you just picture this. It's like the debt is so huge, it's so big that she says, what do you have? I have nothing. Literally, I have nothing. I just have this, but what is this for? What does it matter? This doesn't matter, right? A pot of oil is nothing literally, but God uses this. What most of the time we think, do you have time? I have no time. I just work. I just take care of the kids. I don't have time, but I just have, say, 5 minutes a week. Or maybe you could do something with that small resource that you have. God can use it, and we're going to see that here. And also we need to see there that Elisha the prophet, he didn't tell her, oh no, your husband, that's a lie. No, so that's true that her husband was serving the Lord and he was fearful of the Lord. And this is a good testimony of her husband. And God answers her prayer because she had a good argument to go to God. And God answers and gives her a solution. And we're going to see here, it says, then he said, go borrow the vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. And when, I'm going to just explain there. So if I would go to God and God tells me, you know what, just borrow vessels, that's the solution. I would say, what? So I need to go and knock every door in the neighborhood to ask for an empty vessel. And probably people would know, her neighbors would know that she was indebted. So it was a little bit of uncomfortable to go knocking, hey, I need a vessel. Can I borrow a vessel? And they would say, what do you need this for? Oh, I can't tell, right? So she would be carrying vessels from all the neighborhood, a lot of them. This was the preparation time. She needed to act in faith because she could have also said, I'm not doing this. If God can do this, why can't he just pay my debt? Why can't I just, discover a bar of gold to pay my debt, right? But God uses your nothing, something that you say, this is so irrelevant for this problem that I have. He is able to use that you think that is your nothing to help you. And we're going to see here, it says, then he said, go borrow the vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels. Borrow not a few. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she was going to just pretty much do this, and whenever it was empty, then she was getting another one. And then it says here, so she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, there is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. So we see here that it was not God's power that stopped. It was her capacity to receive God's blessing. Because if she would have, let's say that she got 50 vessels, as soon as the 50 vessels were full, and the son says, there's not a vessel more, the oil stayed. So if she would have had 100 vessels, the 100 vessels would have been full, all of them. She would have thousands, infinite. There's an infinite providence from God. It depends on how much you are preparing, because the instruction for God was, go borrow the vessels. And it depended on her to go and knock as many doors as possible. So we're going to see there that the power of God stops based on our capacity. The more we train, the more we get ready, the more we prepare, God will use us the most. It will stop when you stop. Now it says here, then she came and told the man of God, and he said, go, sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and leave thou and thy children of the rest. And we will see here that the miracle also, a very important thing here in this story is that the miracle had to happen with the doors shut. She needed to get into the door and shut the door with her sons inside. Why? Because most of the times the people we love or our neighbors or people who are close to us are saying, well, are you crazy? Why are you so winning? Well, like, Poland is a Catholic country. You're on a sect? Or they will tell you, they will always affect your faith. And the miracles of God, they happen in your private room. When you are alone with God and you're acting in faith. She needed to act in faith. If you remember when Jesus resurrected Lazarus, he said, he went to the tomb and he said, take out the stone, right? And you would say, I was thinking, well, if he can resurrect Lazarus, why he doesn't just move the stone with some mental powers like move, right? But that's when the faith of those people needed to come in and say, well, he can do it. Let's move the stone. So that's when the faith of these people moving the stone is like, he's going to do something. So let's just move it. And I believe those were, of course, Martha, Maria, and the people around there that believed in Jesus. And God wants you to act. God wants you to act based on that you think is nothing. He's going to bless you. Oh, no, I mean, I can go so winning. Why? Because I have too much work. I can't join neither on Friday, neither on Sunday. I can't go to church. I can't. Why? Because I don't have time. Save 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week. So God can use your hour, and He wants you to act with that hour and give it to Him, and He's going to provide. And this is the most beautiful part, and that I think is very beautiful, because the man, Elijah the prophet tells the widow, pay thy debt, but he doesn't only end there. Because the problem that the widow gave her to him is like, I need to pay the debt, because otherwise my kids are going to be enslaved. But God also thinks, okay, if we pay your debt, we still have a problem. What are you going to live off? Because she didn't have a provider. Her husband died. She was a widow. Who was going to work for her? So God provided to pay the debt, all the debt, and also to live and leave thou and thy children of the rest. God wants us to pay the debt and to leave we and our children of the rest. And God, whenever you go to God, don't go to God when you're planned. Okay, God, I have a business plan. This is what I'm going to do. If you just give me $1 million. No. What you have to do, what the widow did, is that, Lord, the bank has come. They're going to take away my 2 sons to be slaves. She didn't give the solution. She waited for God to give her the answer. And Mm-hmm. I want to make a disclaimer that this story is not about getting rich. I'm not taking you, oh, well, you can get a Lambo and a private jet if you give your money or your time to God. This is about just having enough of the children of God, enough to live by without debt. God doesn't want us to be indebted, because debt, at the end of the day, will become in kind of slavery. We will be working for the interests, for the usury of the banks. So God wants us to be free, and He wants us to have enough to live by. And God, yes, God does want us to be blessed. God wants to bless us. And if you remember, I've repeated, I think, 2 times already. What is the first blessing in the Bible?
To be fruitful and multiply.
To be fruitful and multiply. And this is important, because it's not here, everything, you have everything for automatically. Is be fruitful is that they could have chosen. It was a commandment. It was not, here you are. Just, everything you need you don't have to work for your whole life. No, it's just be fruitful. If they wouldn't have chosen to obey God, Adam and Eve, they wouldn't have been blessed. The blessing was to be fruitful, and this blessing is we can be fruitful by obeying God, in, of course, having a family, building a family, having children, and also spiritually about winning souls. We need to obey God. Without obedience, our blessing is already there, waiting for us, and God wants us to act. He wants us, He's not going to ask you for something that you don't have. He's going to ask you for something that you think is irrelevant for your problem. The pot of oil. Oil to pay your debt and leave off the rest is the message of today. And I wanted to encourage you to give whatever you have, whatever resource you have, either if it is small, use it for God, because God wants to bless you. Thank you. Brother Jan, would you please lead us in the last hymn? No.
Śpiewamy Trust and Obey.
Trust and obey, yes.